I'm absolutely gutted, Joe. I was gutted in the immediate aftermath of the game, and I can only imagine what the players and management are feeling. This will haunt them for a long time. I think, to have, I suppose, really, got to the top of the mountain, you're very close to it, and then just come up short. It's bitterly disappointing, and the more so, I suppose, when, as you said, like you shoot 19 wides, you hit the post with 2 minutes left. And there'll be so many regrets, as you said, if one or two of those had gone maybe in a different direction, or certainly if the width of that post, if the ball hit the inside rather than the outside of it, it might be a different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, bitterly disappointing. I mean, there's huge pride, I think, in the county, because the lads gave us a great summer. It was definitely progress, I suppose, again on last year, and even after the disappointment of the Munster final, I mean, we picked ourselves up again and really put Galway to the pin of their collar. So bitterly disappointing, but as I said, a lot of pride and heart from what was again a great Clare crowd down there on Sunday, and as I said, everyone just, I think, feeding for the lads, and the disappointment they're suffering.
Yeah, Daithi, it can be tempting to just fall into the trap of saying, well, look, Galway would have found a way regardless, and they showed great resilience, which they did, but that was really there for Clare on Sunday.
Yeah, Galway kept them hanging, didn't they? Gave them kind of every opportunity. Galway forwards was very individualistic in the second half. There was no great pattern to the way the forwards were playing, and it was individual performances and scores like Joe Canning's line ball, because Clare were a force. They were like a tornado coming in the last 15 minutes. But to be honest with you, did I ever see really Clare actually winning it? Well, to me, the defining point was, of course, the missed goal opportunity, which would have put them 2 points ahead. Yeah. But it was like I was watching it thinking, nobody does this to Galway. Nobody comes through the heart of Galway like this. And I just thought of Donald throughout the game and on the programme on Sunday at half-time. He was the one Clare forward I picked out, the only Clare forward I picked out that was manfully taking it to Galway. And in the second half, he was actually unmarkable for periods of time there. Mm. And I made the point that Clare really needed Tony Kelly and Conlon at that stage to come and even to get parity with whoever they were marking, because he was a tour de force, and he was like just an arrowhead through the heart of the Galway defence. But obviously the free was a bad miss, to be fair about it. Tony Kelly came out with a ball, I think it was Tony Kelly, and he looked for Conlon down along the wing. Not long after Conlon had got a great score, put it out over the line. But I thought one of the most extraordinary aspects of it was, and you won't see it on television, was when Tony Kelly picked the ball up on the D, he had oceans of space in front of him, and he did the correct thing. He carried it, and you could clearly see what the game plan was to go as far as he could, bring a Galway defender to him and create the overlap. Conor Whelan was literally parallel with Tony Kelly, 40 yards away, when Tony Kelly got the ball and made his run. And we were very blessed where we were to be able to look at what was happening. And to me, Conor Whelan recognised what was in Tony Kelly's head immediately, that he was going to travel. He had oceans of space, and he was going to look for an overlap. And it looked, for all intents and purposes, where he got the ball, Clare will create a score here. He sprinted 40 yards across the field to put pressure on Tony Kelly. And the Galway backs who were reversing back were looking up, and they could clearly see that Whelan was making ground. When Tony Kelly struck the ball, Whelan was within 2 or 3 yards of him, having made up 30 to 40 yards. He forced him to do what he didn't want to do, because actually his idea was to create an overlap. And I just thought, what an unselfish thing to do with 72 or 73 minutes on the clock, to have that brilliant ability to recognise we have a problem here, and to do what he did, Joe. To me, won the game and forced a long-range shot, which was a shot to nothing, because he didn't even look to see could he create and hit one of these great 30 or 40 yard balls. They'll have a lot of regrets, but it speaks volumes for Galway that they still hung in there. But I agree with you, and I agree with Jamesie. I came out of it, my initial reaction to it was, Clare are going to regret this. Yeah. You'll regret all Ireland semi-final losses, Joe, but when it's been there for you, and the nature of the closeness of them getting over the line, but you got to hand it to Galway.
Yeah, that's the thing. I suppose both teams emerged with lots of credit. Jerry O'Connor, Jamesie, he said, we didn't have a slow start. It's nothing to do with the slow start. It is magnificent play by Galway, the way they come out of the blocks. So, I mean, like, maybe digest that for us, or give your interpretation of that for us, because it was an amazing thing the way the game mirrored up with the previous game, and that Galway got so far ahead, and then Clare, somewhere in the middle of that first half, come back into it. I guess Clare didn't, because of the 11 first half wides, never got back as close as they did at half-time the last day, but that the start was so close to what we saw the first day in Croke Park was kind of remarkable, really.
Yeah, and I suppose, ahead of the drawn match, I mean, there were a lot of ifs, maybe, for Clare maybe to win. And one of the things that we all felt they couldn't, or I certainly felt they couldn't afford to do, was get off to a bad start and have to chase Galway, and they got off to a terrible start and have to chase Galway. And for me in the replay, I mean, I was disappointed that we started with a sweeper. I felt that we handed the initiative to Galway by doing so, because obviously they were going to, plan for it and be ready for it, and that's something they probably were guilty of not being prepared for the first day. And Galway threw the curveballs at us, and I felt we were reacting to Galway rather than the other way around, because they had Canning over on the wing, then Conor Cleary. Who does Conor Cleary pick up? Conor Whelan was out centre forward. Jack Brown probably spent the week assuming that he was going to be taking Whelan up again. And as I said, Galway just were absolutely determined that, okay, Galvin isn't going to be available for the puck out. Someone picks him up, and if they want to go short to the cornerbacks, that's fine. We live with that. And as I said, we were so. I mean, Galway were probably one-dimensional in the drawn match. We were so one-dimensional in the first half of the replay that I really felt we shot ourselves in the foot, because we worked the ball out to the 65, but then went long, and Conlon and O'Donnell inside. I mean, Pádraig Mann was sitting as one sweeper, but our half forward and played so far out that Adrian Toohey at times was there as a second sweeper, and all Daithi Burke had to do was just tap the ball down and break it, and one of the Galway guys was there to pick it up. And there was only, I think, one ball in the first half where Galvin, I think, hit a good ball down the line. O'Donnell came out, made a great catch, turned and took Ambry on and put it over. And outside of that, sorry to interrupt, we starved the ball, I thought.
Yeah, sorry to interrupt, because that's a very interesting point, and it was noticeable. I was watching the TV, obviously. At one point, Brendan Cummins in the second half just remarked that these clever balls down the line, or picking out passes as opposed to just bombing it down, sorry, doing something off with the mic there, that they were suddenly causing havoc for Galway. And it's almost like Clare cottoned onto this halfway through the game. But Jerry O'Connor afterwards was saying that they're a hugely physical team, Galway, so you can't just poke the ball down in their half-back line or their midfielders. We had to come up with a plan to bypass their aerial dominance. So this is, this was something that Jerry O'Connor and presumably everybody was very aware of, and yet for far too much of that game, Clare went out and said, well, let's see how balls into Duggan or Conlon or O'Donnell work, and maybe didn't react quickly enough when they weren't working. Yeah,
I mean, I think there were something like 10 high balls hit into Conlon and Daithi Burke in the first half, and I don't think Conlon won one of them, and that's not a slight on Conlon, because I mean, he was heroic in the drawing game, and Galway obviously had said, listen, we got to shut this guy down. We can't afford to have this guy coming out getting the type of ball he got at times in the second half of the drawing game, because he's unmarkable the way the season he's having and the form he's in. And as I said, Daithi Burke could attack the ball with a far more freedom, because he knew that he had the luxury of Pádraig Mann or one of the other sweepers there to hoover it up. So I certainly felt that whoever was looking at this from maybe the eye in the sky, or whoever Clare had in the stand, that we just needed to change things up, because we were one-dimensional, and the tactic of going long into Conlon and O'Donnell with high ball just patently wasn't working in the first half. It was only when we ran at Galway a bit more in the second half that I thought we finally started to get some traction.
Yeah, so Daithi, you were there as well. I saw at times, I saw a few criticisms today saying, well, at times Clare lacked composure at the crucial moments. And maybe there's something in that. But by the same token, there were times when Tony Kelly or Podge or different people showed great composure in working a score. Now, it just wasn't frequent enough at times, but they did on occasion work brilliant scores from out the field. You were there. Like, what did you make of the wides? How did you explain the wides? I mean, was there some wind I wasn't aware of watching through TV, or was there something, were they under more pressure than it looked like, or were they just really bad wides, a lot of them?
There was I suppose, an amalgamation of all. I mean, there was a couple of line balls in the first half, which Tony Kelly hit one across the goals wide. Actually, there was two he hit wide, and Duggan hit one in the first half as well. And it just seemed to be systematic of how bad things were going for Clare in the first half. It dribbled along the ground out over the end line, and it was really, really poor.
Yeah.
Now, some of them were shots to nothing, I guess, from out the field, whereby there's no doubt about it. When when they started to play good ball inside, and I mean, Jamesie's right, the one good ball that was played inside in the first half, but a lot of the wides were bad wides. Podge Collins, a couple of bad wides. Tony Kelly had a couple of bad wides, one on the newsstand side in the first half, travelling. Galvin, same thing as well. Just with the ability that these guys have, you know, it's on the run. It's always far post, the ball tails back in. I mean, some of them were hit and they weren't under pressure, to be fair about it. So it was maybe rushed, but it was systematic of what was happening in the first half with Clare. The amount of first and second touches and fumbling in a ball. Now, some of that was down to Galway pressure. Some of it was down to Clare guys who just weren't on.
Yeah.
They just weren't on. And to me, what it took was a really inspirational performance from O'Donnell, the turner. I thought they made a good move by bringing Shannon to midfield. He's a very talented player. And McInerney started to get on top of Johnny Glynn, to be fair about it. Okay, Glynn did a couple of good things the second half, but McInerney was got really, really solid. Shane Murray started to deliver some good ball in. There was a lot more movement. And Duggan certainly, again, like the last day, came into it in the second half. In the first game, he came into it the last 10 minutes of the first half and continued it. This time he started in the second half, but he wasn't dominant whatsoever in the first half. And Clare really were bereft of ideas. I mean, it was childlike to look at repetitive mistakes time after time after time. And you have the benefit when you're there to look at a short puck out, been hit to a corner back, and immediately to look up and see, right, where's he going with it? And they didn't try to work another pass because Galway were, as Jamesie correctly said, let them have it there. And then try to force a long puck. And you're going, as far as you can hit it, you're not going to hit it that far because Conlon was ensconced actually in on the small parallelogram.
Right.
And there was 2 and 3 guys in front of him.
Right.
And it was really like something like you'd see a kids hurling team make the same type of mistakes. But the second half was extraordinary for the turnaround that was in it.
Yeah.
One, Clare were superb in the way they went about it by throwing the shackles off and playing good, smart, intelligent ball. And Galway became very individualistic up front. Great players did great things infrequently, but enough to keep the thing ticking over.
Yeah. Jamesie, Daithi a few times has mentioned Shane O'Donnell, which we can't really do an analysis piece on without talking about him. Like the cliche with O'Donnell, it seems for a lot of this summer was different people saying, I wish he'd be a bit more selfish and almost put the head down and go for it. Like, man, he did that on Sunday. Just an unbelievable goal, really, which you might talk us through. And then obviously the assist for the Duggan goal in some ways was just as impressive and brilliant and direct. And like, geez, I mean, it sort of feels like this is the Shane O'Donnell we were kind of hoping for 5 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, he's been very close. Even the first day out, Joe, against Cork, I mean, you know, he got his hands on a mountain of ball and just maybe took the wrong options or the pass didn't come off. But he's a fantastic guy and a fantastic player. And like, he really was, as Daithi said, was instrumental in getting Clare back into it. I mean, the first goal was audacious because, you know, to have us was the bloody mindedness and the determination to, you know, take on whatever 3 or 4 Galway defenders. And, you know, the footwork was sublime. The strength to ride the tackle and shrug off Daithi Burke that not too many people do. And the finish then was, you know, just, I suppose he had the composure and nerve. And yeah, he really took the fight to Galway led on. And, you know, even, you know, so the second goal, Conlon maybe did well last year, just to keep it in there. And O'Donnell got his head up and Duggan still had a lot to do. And again, it was one of those pieces of skill that Duggan is capable of producing. And he, you know, another guy might have tapped it over the bar, but he went for it and credit him for that. But the third goal, Chancellor, the one that, you know, I suppose he set up for Shanahan again, was, you know, just running straight through the heart of the defence. I mean, the pass was timed perfectly, and Shanahan is a player that favours his left side very much. And I suppose, he's very little game time played, you know, and you know, obviously back from the cruciate injury, and I mean, and what an impact he made when he came on in both games. And you know, I feel if he'd gone with his right side, maybe just taken the ball away from Skehill and slipped it under him, you know, it would have been. It would have been the thing to do, but I suppose you get a split second to do those things. He took it on his favourite left side, and Skehill did really, really well to come out and smother it. But yeah, O'Donnell is capable of doing those things, and as I said, it's just his willingness to run at defenders and ask the type of questions that, you know, lots of forwards don't ask, and he was magnificent in the second half. And as I said, Clare wouldn't have been anywhere as close to Galway as they were without that contribution from him.
No, that's true. We will round this off by talking a bit more about Galway, and obviously Limerick is coming into sharp focus now. But before we do, one last point on Clare, Jamesie. Did you have, you watch these players a lot and through the league and everything. Both Jerry O'Connor and Donald Maloney said afterwards that generally all year they've been happy with the shooting and the shot efficiency and all that kind of stuff. Did you, were you kind of shocked at some of the wides, or had you seen this before from this Clare side, or did you have any way of explaining it?
Well, listen, we shot ourselves in the foot in the Munster final last year with, a huge amount of aimless shooting from out the field. But to be fair, this year, again, the third quarter, we were guilty of, again, probably a couple of poor wides, and Peter missed a couple of frees, and we just couldn't break Cork's momentum, and just had a dire 15, 20 minutes and went into a tailspin and couldn't get out of it in time. But by and large, the team have played... Listen, the team have won 4 championship matches this summer, Joe. They took Galway, as I said, to extra time and put Galway to the pin of their collar to beat them. We beat Limerick well already, who were in the final in the championship. And we certainly will have huge regrets about some of the wides. But sometimes you just have a day like that where Tony Kelly, 9 times out of 10 those shots go over. Galvin had a chance in the first half, and 9 times out of 10 he nails it. And I suppose it just, sometimes if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. And as I said, the lads will have huge regrets over the winter. But by and large, Joe, it's been a great summer for Clare hurling. A great summer for Clare supporters. And my young fella's 12, and he's gone to the pitch tonight with his hurling his hand. And that's, I suppose, the big dividend for Clare and Limerick, as well as Galway to an extent, that this summer will bring, hopefully. And I think the team will be back. Even the strategy they adopted. The strength and conditioning team, Kelvin, the background, did an unbelievable job because, we had practically no injuries this year. The team were in fantastic shape. We didn't use that many players or blood that many players during the league, but I think they used it as a trial run for. Look, we know our starting 15 or 18 or 20, whatever it is, and we're going to get them used to going, week in, week out. And I think they got an awful lot of things right this year. But listen, it's, as I said, to the victors go the spoils, and credit to God.
Not bringing Shanahan on, Jamie.
Sorry,
James. Apologies about that, James. Not bringing Aaron Shanahan on to the 62nd minute. Unless the guy was injured, surely there was more than 8 minutes in him.
Yeah, no, definitely, Daithi. And there's probably a couple of things, all right, that maybe leave you scratching your head. That's certainly one. I was even saying 8 minutes left. It was crazy to get him on. I checked my phone after we got off the air or whatever, and again I had a couple of texts, get Shanahan now, at a 3:15, which was probably early in the second half. I think as well I was surprised not to see Jason McCarthy on at the end, or before the end, given that his confidence had to be high going into the game after the finish he supplied, in the draw match. And he's a guy that's come on in I'd say nearly all the Clare's league matches and made a contribution and got his name on the scoreboard. So little things like that. But by and large, that management, given the success they've had at underage level, and given the work they've put in to get the team back to where they are. I think that they have a lot of credit in the bank, and as I said,
I agree.
There's nobody pinging them for that. There's obviously things that I think that they themselves will look back on it and maybe say, right, we could have done different. But by and large, I think they'll get an easy or a free pass from most of the Clare supporters.
Well, I think you could argue this is the year where finally, they're not going to be just written off as 2013 wonders now, that they're actually going to be a team which we're going to see around for the next couple of years. On Galway, Daithi, it was interesting. Joe Canning made the point that he says we showed great character. We were only behind once overall in both matches. He says we didn't get a lot of respect during the week, I think, from media and such. Our character was questioned, I thought. Now, I must say, I read most things, listened to most things. I didn't really think it was, but I guess you use any psychological tool or anything you can put up in the back of a dressing room door to get yourself going a little bit. I think people have huge respect for this Galway side. Do they emerge from these 2 games with a few question marks for you, given the way Clare came back at them, or have they almost further underlined their status and their All-Ireland credentials again?
Yeah, it's a good question, Joe. I certainly thought at the start of the year, and I know Damien Hayes made the comment a couple of weeks ago before the Clare game that it's Galway's to lose. I did think Galway would win the All-Ireland final this year. What I've seen from Clare and what I've seen from Limerick to date, and I did fancy Limerick to get to the All-Ireland, but I did think it was a bit soon for them. I just thought Galway were going to be too good. What I did see from Clare when Clare hurled well and showed no fear and threw the shackles off, that they showed that the Galway full back line can be got at. And like I say, if Shannon had been there longer, I mean, he was a guy in form. So I think they've shown great characteristics. A worry for me is Conor Cooney's form, because I think he's a superb forward. And he looks a little bit shorn of confidence. And he's been subbed in practically all the games this year. And I think one of the things that's not helping him is Johnny Glynn is spending a lot of time in full forward. And I understand that. And it's a good ploy. And it's been paying dividends, and rich dividends, particularly when they haven't been hurling well, because from the 28th minute on Sunday, from when he got the goal, to when the half-time whistle went in the 38th minute, Galway didn't score. Now, Joe can say what he likes after the game. I mean, there is no way in the world anything would have been mentioned in the Galway dressing room about there's a lack of respect, people don't respect us, because there was none. Like you, I agree. And I looked and I trawled through and I thought, I don't know where you're coming from here. I know a lot of Galway people, and they felt, yeah, listen, fair play to Clare. But I never heard one dissenting voice towards the team whatsoever. So I don't believe that was discussed, because I don't think there was anything behind it. Now, the other side of the coin, Joe, is if it was, well, then are you looking to create monsters to help us focus the minds? Now, that's listen, they're in an All-Ireland final and they'll say, who cares? But I think we've seen enough to know that they're not invincible. And we've seen enough from Limerick to know that they're very good, and they play a brand that will ask questions. And I think if you look at someone like Seamus Flanagan, he's not going to sit on the edge of the square with Daithi Burke all day. If we've learned anything, you don't stand someone on the edge of the square and pump ball after ball down on top of him. Yeah. Because he's a supreme player with everything in the bag to contend with that. I think Limerick will pose different questions, but Galway's resilience cannot be questioned in any way. Yeah. Two drawn games and 2 victories. They deserve a lot of goodwill going into the final, to be honest with you. Yeah. So last word to you on the same point then, Jamesie. Galway emerging with huge admiration and their resilience and character very much intact, but maybe a newfound sense that they're not the kind of all-encompassing, impenetrable champions in waiting as well. No, definitely not. And you know, Limerick will feel that there are weaknesses there, and Connacht has done it with Clare in 2013, you know, and he will be as organised and as prepared as along with John Kiley as Limerick can be. And there's now lots of footage as to, you know, where Galway's potential weaknesses might be, and they'll be poring over the videos of both of those games, trying to identify those areas. Just to get on Joe, I couldn't understand either Joe's comments after the game, and you know, I felt like, listen, there was nothing but respect for both teams, and given the weekend and the 24 hours we'd had, it was all positive. Yeah. So that was strange. And I'm sure maybe Micheál Donoghue was, you know, trying to create maybe that siege mentality, but yeah, I didn't think it hit the right notes after the game. You know, but listen, as I said, like when you win, you know, the victor, you know, as history, they write history. Yeah. But certainly, like this final is wide open, and Limerick have the players. Gallan is a serious weapon inside. Flanagan is a good player. And don't forget, like Limerick went to Salt Hill, we're 9 points down at half time, having shot, I don't know, was it a dozen miles in the first half. I remember watching that game in TG Carr, and you know, took huge heart, and that was a major turning point in Limerick's season, to go up to Salt Hill in a game that mattered, and you know, take all the scalp. And Limerick would have taken a lot of heart from the way Clare, you know, performed, and the fact that Clare asked so many questions. So Galway, you know, are more the same. Joe, might be good enough. They'll have to be better in the final, but the key thing was to get there, and they've done that. Yeah, all brilliant stuff, and if it lives up to the semi-finals, we'll be just fine. Jamesie, Daithi, thanks a million, lads. We'll leave it there. Cheers, Joe. Night, lads.
Off the ball on News Talk. News Talk Breakfast.
Gerry Adams, he's going to publish a book of recipes with ingredients including some of the best kept secrets of the Irish peace process. The former Sinn Féin president, I kid you not, said he intends to reveal the recipes which sustained Republicans through nights and years of talks. The Loud TD disclosed the tome to be printed by Sinn Féin before Christmas is to be called The Negotiators. This is ridiculous.
News Talk Breakfast
in association with AIR.
Back tomorrow on News Talk.
On average, we each use 129 litres of water every single day. Find out how we can all use a little less at water.ie. Irish Water, safeguarding our water for our future.
When you're a first-time buyer, it's first things first. So when finding a great low fixed rate is all that matters right now, Ulster Bank's new First 5 mortgage has you sorted. We've 5 great benefits, including the lowest 2-year fixed rate in the market. Just search Ulster Bank First 5. Ulster Bank. Help for what matters. Lowest rate claim source bonkers.ie, 29th of June 2018. Maximum loan to value is 90%. Security and insurance required. Product fees may apply. Over 18s and residential mortgages only. Lending criteria, terms and conditions apply. Credit facility subject